Hi again, grade threes. We are going to relate multiplication and division. We're going to put them together. Now we have these memorized for multiplication. We've got to play a little bit with some strategies for division, sharing equally, repeating, subtraction as we go down and dividing them out. Now we're going to put them together and make fact families. You did fact families with addition and subtraction. Now we're going to do it with multiplication and division. So first we're going to start with the multiplication facts that we already know. These ones in particular, this is 4 times 5. This is one that you should have memorized already. We know that 4 times 5 is 20. But if you don't have that memorized and you don't remember, let's remember that we have 4 groups of 5. So I'm going to count by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20. So I know that 4 groups of 5 is 5, 10, 15, 20. I'm just going to go ahead and put that there. Now, commutative property says that if I switch those factors in multiplication, so instead of 4 times 5, I'm going to say 5 times 4, it actually equals the same thing. So I'm going to show you. If you don't already know that 5 times 4 is 20, you can also count by 4's 5 times. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I've just counted groups of 4 5 times. So I know that. Now, if you already have one of those memorized, you have them both memorized. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 4 is 20. This is the first half of our fact family. This is a fact that we know and it's guaranteed. Now, how does that relate to division? Well, let's say I want to work backwards and I have 20 of something. So I'm going to start with 20. I always want to start with my biggest number because just like subtraction, I can't divide or share out of a smaller number. I have to share or divide out of the bigger number. So I start with my 20. Then I do my little divided symbol, which I've learned and done lots of this last week. Now, my options are 4 times 5 and 5 times 4. So we're going to switch it out. If I have 20 and I want to divide it out between 4 people, okay? So I have 20 and I want to make an equal amount between 4 people. I know that I have 20. And the way that I know that is I can do repeated subtraction like I did before, where I can just keep subtracting. I can use the number line. I could divide it into groups and make my circles. I can have my 4 circles because I'm going to do 4 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I can see I have 5 in each group. Now that takes quite a long time. That's why we start talking about repeated subtraction. So instead I can say I have 20 and I subtract 4. I get 16. Subtract another 4. I get 12. Subtract another 4. I get 8. Subtract another 4, I get 4. Subtract another 4, and I get 0. So that means that I made 5 groups when I subtracted. Each time I subtracted, I ended up with 5 groups by the time I got to 0. Okay? Pretty straightforward, and it helps. Now, on the reverse, the same thing can be true about my other option is I can have 20, and I can make 5 groups. Now, same thing, I can do this, I can draw my 5 circles, I can divide them out evenly, I could do a number line, I could do my leapfrogs all the way down, or I can just do repeated subtraction and subtract it out. I'm going to start with 20 and I'm going to subtract by 5 each time and we'll see how many times I subtract. So I'm going to start with 20 minus 5 is 15, minus 5 is 10, minus 5 is 5, minus 5 is 0. Look, I made it to 0 and I stopped. I have 4. So this right here is my family. This is my fact family. I have 2 different multiplication sentences and 2 different division sentences, and they work together as a family. Okay, we're going to do another one. 3 times 4. So what is 3 times 4? Well, you should know what 3 times 4 is. That one should be memorized for you in your brain. 3 times 4 is 12. So the commutative property, if we switch that around, 4 times 3, same thing, because I know that 3 times 4 equals 4 times 3. They're the same thing. Commutative property tells me that in multiplication, I can switch them and they both equal 12. So there's my multiplication facts. Now, I want to take it to division. I'm going to start with my big number, which is 12, and I want to try dividing out 12 by 4 groups. If I divide 12 by 4 groups, I'm going to get 3. And you can figure that if you're not seeing where that's coming from. But if I look here, I'm just going backwards. So I'm starting with my 12, dividing by 4, and I get 3. So let's try the other one. I'm going to start with 12. I'm going to work backwards this way, divided by 3, and that equals 4. And if you don't believe me and you don't want to go on that, you can divide those out and share them with your counters and try. I just want to make this video a little bit shorter. Okay, so same thing with 2 times 3, 3 times 2. Now you are going to have a worksheet that looks like this. And on each of these lines, it has an array as well as some multiplication and division sentences. So what I'm looking for is you're going to look for an array like this. Now the first thing, and remember arrays, we start with the rows and then we do the columns. So I'm going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Oh, and of course I can't draw in there, but we'll get the idea. So I'm going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. So I would say 4 times 7 equals 28. And there's 28 there. You can count them. You can count by 4s. You can count by 7s and figure out what that is. Then I'm going to have my 2 multiplication sentences and my 2 division sentences. You're going to switch them out. So let's do this one since I can't write on the board for some reason. We will start with our 1, 2, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 3 is 15 because commutative property tells us we can swap those and they mean the same. Now my division is I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to take my 15 and divide it by 3. That gives me 5. If I take my 15 and divide it by 5, that gives me 3. You have 2 pages here to do that with just some numbers to work with and try. This one, you're just using these numbers, 6, 3, and 2. For the multiplication, it doesn't matter whether you use the 3 or the 2 first, or the 2 or the 3, but we know the 6 is the answer because it's the biggest number. In division, we go backwards to that. 6 is the biggest number, so it's going to be the first number. All right, does that make sense? And that'll be 6 for both of those. So I'd like you to give these a try. If you are having troubles with the fact family, because sometimes these get a little confusing, please let me know, and I can walk through this with you, or I can give you a phone call or a Zoom call, and we can kind of talk through it and see where we can get that. But try it first and see if you can take these 3 numbers and make 2 multiplication sentences and 2 division sentences. This is your bonus page. This is after you finish this one, and wow, man, that was easy. I totally get it. I can see how this all comes together. This is the one that you definitely need to do. And this one is your bonus challenge page. If you have any questions with any of these, please let me know, and I will get you set up. All right, take care. Have a great day.